So what's going on, guys? I'm here with ex-Illusion drummer, current Sons of Issachar drummer, Riffmeister, Stickman himself, Rich Singletary. So how's it going, Rich?
Pretty good, man. Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good, man. We're chilling here in your awesome studio. Might do a little pan of it later, getting ready for practice. So, and I've never really interviewed you or know too much about your background. So, what got you into music instead of drums? Yeah, what got you just into music and into the music kind of listen to now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it honestly started whenever I was a kid. I always had an attraction to it. I remember basically since I was like 3 years old, I had like a fake little plastic toy guitar, almost looked like a rock band guitar that they have now where you can press some buttons and it would just make a sound, and was obsessed with it. Begged my parents to play. It's a little bit of a longer story, but got a little like pushback and resistance as a kid. And then, once I hit, I want to say it was around 11 years old. Yeah, like me and my mom were in a Walmart, and I just saw one of those just first act guitars in like basically a cardboard box, and was like, hey man, like, begged for it kind of thing, $100, and never set the thing down, and just took off from there. Initially wanted to play drums because I have two cousins. So one, Kyle, played guitar, and then my other cousin Timmy played drums. Me and Timmy were just like super close, very interested in what he was doing. Just had a big allure to it, but my dad was like, no way in hell are you playing drums in the house. And then it was about 6 years into playing guitar like religiously, like never put down the first act I got. Then I got a Samus, I think is what it was called. It's like a knockoff like Fender Stratocaster. Played it until like my fingers would bleed kind of thing. And then after basically about 4 years of that, they wanted to do something special for me. Ended up getting my first like real guitar, which was my Gibson SG that I still have now, that I put the Fishmans into, funny enough. Had to modernize it. And then, yeah, after that, they just kind of let me do what I wanted to do. They realized it was a huge passion and just kind of let me run with it. My aunt had a just Percussion Plus or something like that. It was a free drum kit that was in their like storage unit. Gave that to me. I like beat the heads off of it for years kind of thing. And then my cousin Timmy ended up lending me his nice. He had like a old school kind of PV retro kit that they did a series of, and I played on it until I ended up getting my red Mapex that I've played on for years, that was used in the project for Illusion. And then I ended up getting my Tama Star Classic Birch Bubingo, which I play on now. And then recently, over the past couple years, got my like little 3-piece DW collector's kit that I use for just kind of offshoot little projects and stuff here and there. But that's kind of how it started. It was a little bit of a long story, but
nothing wrong with that.
It was a whole developmental process, and I had a couple teachers over the course of time. Just a very basic guitar teacher to start, and then I had a phenomenal guitar teacher, I want to say for about 3 or 4 years. He's local here in town, Richie Stano.
And you learned from Rich?
Yeah,
nice, dude. He's awesome.
Yeah, he was a phenomenal inspiration. Gave me a very, very good, basis and fundamentals to work with, and still go back to his workbook that he basically had handwritten like lesson pages, and I still refer back to that stuff just to refresh myself and try to give myself some new ideas, motif wise and all. But yeah.
Wow, man, Richie Stano's taught everybody in this town. Wow. Yeah, go check him out. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Super cool guy, phenomenal musician. So
amazing to see him perform live.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into metal? Like extreme. Because you learned like Ocean's 8 Alaska and stuff like that. So how'd you get into like that extreme of metal?
Yeah, I grew up listening. With my dad, it was either country or southern rock for the most part. There was a little blues in there. My grandmother really loved jazz, but I gravitated more to the rock side of it. And then going to school every day, my mom would drive me to school, and I was kind of introduced to rock getting away from the southern rock aspect of things, but more the harder rock through, once again, my cousin Timmy. Cousin Kyle was into Tool pretty heavy um, whenever I was, 11, 12 years old. So they were kind of a big influence on me. But yeah, the metal just kind of like slowly crept into my life in middle school. One of the first bands, actually, I'll never forget it. I was sitting at my aunt's house watching MTV, and Backcountry came on by
Oh,
Avenged Sevenfold, and that was the instant hook. I was like, I want to say like 12, maybe 13 at the time, and it was just like, boom, just a light bulb went off, and I was like, this is what I want to do. Which is kind of where the drums came in as well. Jimmy, their drummer that passed years ago, he was a big influence. I remember just like listening to the stuff he would do with the ride and hi-hat articulations, and it was just like, I don't know, just a hook to my ears. Basically, I was like, I want to, anytime I hear something and I really love the way it sounds, I want to learn how to play it. And that's how music still is influencing me today. I hear something, I want to play it. Same as Animals as Leaders, why the stuff pisses me off, like can't even come close to getting to what Matt Gartzka or Tosin Abasi can do. But it's that inspiration that it sounds amazing, and it's like, what are they doing to produce this? So yeah, that's kind of where it started, Avenged Sevenfold, and it was just like a rabbit hole from there. I don't really know like all the other metal bands that proceeded after, but that was the gateway, into it basically.
oh, cool, cool, cool.
Yeah,
So you're an awesome drummer, but you're also a
thanks,
very
man.
capable. Oh, of course. But you're also like an amazingly good guitarist. Like, so does the guitar influence your drumming, or drumming influence guitar? Do like the ideas with motifs from guitar somehow go into your drum technique, or how do you interplay off the two of those?
For sure, yeah. So I started with the guitar, of course, like I mentioned, and I wanted to articulate rhythmically on drums what I was producing with guitar. So that's kind of where the two came hand in hand. Um, I could just hear kind of rhythms along what I wanted to play. And I was never so much like a lead guitar player by any means, not like a bunch of solos, but I'd have rhythms. And then I would try to like accent or kind of like give some flair to the music through more of the like rhythmical aspect of it in drumming. And just funny enough, like I just never took drum lessons. I've taken
Really?
like little offshoot lessons
Mm.
here and there over Skype with a couple people online just to get like, some random techniques down from, or just advice. But yeah, drums was just like a natural little, niche that I had, and just kind of ran with it. Kind of knew like an avenue to always like keep working and progressing. I didn't really need someone to help me as much like I did with guitar. And that may have been part of it too. I already had the fundamentals of guitar, with Richie, and having a lot of information from him. So it just kind of like went hand in hand. But yeah, it was more, I enjoyed writing guitar parts to then play drums too. And then the drums started to take over, and that was where it started getting like more encompassing in more rhythmical aspects of stuff. And that's where I remember a good friend of mine, Sam, in high school, introduced me to August Burns Red and Matt Greiner, and that was a huge influence as well, like trying to play their stuff and covering and learning what they had going on. So yeah.
Cool, cool. All right. Oh man, I have this question in my head. I forgot what it was. So when it comes to like your guitar and the drumming, so do you think you have like, so when you're influenced by guitarists, are you influenced by like drummers from the same band, or your guitar influences and your drum influences like totally from like a different like sphere of genre? Would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like I know you mentioned Tosin and Matt, but is like your guitar influences Joe Pass, but a drummer would be like you know George Callias or something like that, or is like your instrument influence from like the same bands or just like separate on each instrument completely?
Yeah, oh, I would honestly probably say it's pretty similar, bands. I will say there's like R&B artists that I love listening to now that have a big influence on my drumming. Um, it's just more expansive now that I'm older, but it used to be the artist that I was listening to, I love their guitar work and the drum work and how it was collaborative, basically, together. Once again, that synchronization of like how they're accenting each other and playing off of it. So once I got into a band, that was kind of like why I liked certain bands and would not so much stick to a specific style, even though I've liked heavier music. Um, but yeah, if I could hear like a really cool like groove or riff that a guitar player is playing, and then the drummer would play off of it and do it really well, that was like a solid band for me that I'm not going to put down and always kind of repetitively listen to. So I'd say, yeah, it's basically one and the same for me. Like if I like the guitar player, I'm gonna like the drummer basically as well, and that has the influence on me too. But now it's more expansive. You know, I listen to tons of stuff. I'd say the only thing I really don't care for or listen to much is country because it just feels bland. There's not a whole lot going on. You know, it gets a little stale. Not to hate on anybody who likes country music or country music artists, but there's just not a whole lot of flavor or seasoning going on there.
Oh, that was great. Oh man, this is probably my favorite interview so far.
Gotta have some ghost notes, man. Gotta have some different time signatures. Like we can't just be sitting in 4/4 all day, you know, hi-hat, kick and snare and like little, you know, tom fill here and there. Like we gotta have a little bit more going on to keep my attention.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man. So who would you say are like, well, who are your top influences in the past? Let's say top 5, and who are currently your like top 5 influences when you write and play?
Top 5. I definitely go with, so since we're playing off of like guitar and drums and like similar band or same bands that these musicians are in, you know, originally going back, I still have the tablature book of City of Evil with Avenged Sevenfold. So Brian, their guitar player, big influence. I learned that whole album years ago, like front to back, you know, cover to cover on guitar, and then I did the same thing with drums. It was just like very encompassing, and I enjoyed like going through every little bit and piece of it. Trying to think of who else would be a big influence. I really enjoyed John Mayer whenever I was younger, still enjoy him now. Obviously, there's Tosin Abasi. I mean, really, the whole Animals as Leaders group is a big influence, even though I can't play it and don't measure up in any way, shape, or form.
Not yet. Not yet.
They do have a big influence, though, and it has an expansive effect on my mind. You know, it makes me think a little bit more outside of the box than a lot of other groups do, you know, and Javier's a big thing, too, with his side project, Nestis. Um, it's just some really cool music that you usually don't hear being produced, which just brings some new thoughts to mind and new like riff ideas. Um, I'd also say I'm big into instrumental music, so you know there's Aaron from Intervals, Nathan Bulla, once again, you know, hand in hand guitar player with drummer. Those two guys have been a good like inspiration for me. Trying to think who else would kind of be on that. Question kind of caught me off guard. Just trying to really think of like the stuff I've covered. Once again, August Burns Red, go back to Matt Greiner, and then their lead guitar player, I want to say his name is Jake, or he goes by JV, but another one that I covered years ago in high school. We'd learn like their little riffs, and then me and Sam would like jam to it and stuff. He'd be on drums and I'd actually be on guitar, or we'd swap back and forth since we both played both instruments. But yeah, I'd say those guys were a big influence. I know there's somebody else though that I'm just like missing right now, but we'll probably have to circle back to it if I think of it. Yeah, Mark Akubo, you're actually wearing Veil of Maya, so that was I'd say they're a big influence on me now with the way that I write. You know, more Richie Stano once again with some stretching finger, you know, exercises. You know, he's kind of all over the fretboard and like those octaves and creating those very like dissonant harmonies is a big part of like how I write now. So I love open, dissonant sounding chords, riffs that are like that. I just feel like it brings melodic stuff along with making it heavy at the same time. Keeps it interesting. So any sort of anxiety type chords, once again, counterparts, um, the way that they kind of orchestrate that stuff. And then, Kyle Brownlee would be a huge influence too, with just how like tight and precise he is. And now I'm thinking about it, it's a shame that I'm gonna say this. I probably shouldn't say this, but I guess whenever I was a kid growing up, a big influence definitely starting off, was Travis Barker. Um, but now he's just a sellout.
I cannot wait to put this one up.
If you're with the Kardashians, you can't be doing too well.
Oh man. Oh boy, that's gonna get us some hits right there. So what do you so let's say how is your adaptability as you go from like different kits? So like if you had to play your 3-piece kit, would you've only been playing say like your 5-piece or your other 5-piece kit, like how does that change? You like change style? Is there anything like you can or can't do?
Not really. I think it's a lot of it's articulation, right? So, with the 5-piece kits, really the only thing that's being added is that extra little 10-inch tom. It's nice to just hit that 10-inch tom and get what you want out of it. But if you tune your kit right, you can accent these drums in a certain way where if you hit it softer or harder, you're going to get a different tone out of it. So, with my 3-piece, I love it, and it may be something we experiment with Sons of Issachar. But for right now, it makes sense with the tone that we have to stay with the 5-piece. I mean, it's a birch bubinga, so it has with the bubinga a very dark, deep tone, which matches the sound of your bass and then Ket's guitar. So just trying to blend the sound all together, but I really love playing on a 3-piece because the kit itself is just. So mine is. I keep everything. Anybody that's ever been around me musically knows my kit is like very compact and tight. Everything's almost touching itself because I want it very accessible and to not waste a lot of energy when I'm moving around a kit. Another big reason I do love a 3-piece, and that is what I started on, was a 3-piece. It was a beater kit, but I had to learn how to play Avenged Sevenfold stuff on, 2 toms, and he had a quite ginormous kit.
Yeah.
So, you're trying to figure out, how do I like space this out? How do I make it sound at least similar while he's using, goodness, what did he have? Like at least four toms, and maybe even had like 2 floor toms going on. And it was a spacing thing, which I think was a good training exercise for me too. It was like more about timing and not about like you give a couple hits to each, instrument or each tom. And I do kind of consider each drum its own instrument and how you utilize it. So, yeah, I love a 3-piece. It may end up being something we utilize in Sons of Issachar. If you and Ket end up liking the tone of it and just if it fits. But, I always am impressed with another big reason I do have a lot of respect for Kyle Brownlee. Not that he's just like mechanical, but, he can make a lot of different sounds with just this 3-piece and accent stuff really well. And, if you combine the 2 toms, like you hit them at the same time, you're getting that other middle tom sound out of it. So I do have a lot of respect for people that play on 3-pieces, and I do kind of enjoy it with just how tight it is and efficient it is energy-wise to play on them.
So I've noticed that you hold your sticks like really close to the end a lot, especially when you're in illusion. You hold them like really close to the end, and they get like the maximum length out of them. Is that like something you developed over time, or is that how you learned?
I think it just came to like feel and preference. music in general, sometimes guys are like, oh, you should play. It's always a debate with like drummers, but as a listener, nobody really cares. But drummers would be like, oh, traditional or match grip. And funny enough, Matt Gartzka really kind of hates on traditional. He's like, played match grip. Like the reason they played traditional was when they were marching into war in the position of the snare drum, so you could get over top of it. But really, match grip is, I'm not like a superior type person where if you play this way or that way, like you're doing it right or wrong. But match grip just feels more natural and ergonomic in general. Plus, you have just more access to your three fingers to help with ghost notes and bounce the stick. But yeah, I do like the length of it because you're utilizing once again that efficiency and energy aspect of it to where you have more gravity and momentum that's working on your side instead of you having to utilize so much of your forearm or so much of your fingers to produce a sound. You're taking the weight of that stick and letting it drive for you. And that's another point that, Chris Turner has talked about. He uses 2B sticks, so like extremely heavy sticks. I'm using 5Bs, which I would imagine is probably the most common amongst drummers in general, unless you start getting into jazz where they'll start using a very light stick like a 7A. Um, but yeah, it's all about having everything work cohesively. So, with the drum kit being tight, not wasting energy, trying to move around a kit, and then utilizing the stick to work for you and you not having to drive it as much. So yeah, I like being back down on it. It feels nice and balanced for me. Um, you'll also like notice as sticks taper, there's a lot more weight towards the back end of it. So to get that kind of ergonomics or momentum when you're moving around a kit, the further back you hold the sticks, you're having more weight on the front end of it, which just helps the stick drop, and you can give slight little subtle taps with your fingers to produce ghost notes or just sound in general anywhere along the kit. And I feel like I have more control. Um, I can really lay into it or I can pull back, on cymbals. It just helps a lot. And that's how I like to play personally.
Cool, cool. All right. So we know you drum for Southern Vista Carp. Do you have any other projects, like a solo thing or any other bands or anything like that?
No, I was doing a solo project in writing, but honestly, it's all been starting to merge into Sons of Issachar. And now that you guys are awesome because
Oh, okay.
I've been in bands before where the guitar player writes and everybody kind of has their place or position, and I feel like this is probably the most cohesive group I've been in where the influence is just like coming from every member in the band, which I absolutely love. So you know, I love that Ket is open to my ideas and riffs, and that we make everything our own, and mold it into our own sound. So, yeah,
Cool. That was Rich, everybody. I'll put his IG and his YouTube down in the description. And yeah, look out for more stuff from Sons of Issachar. Thank y'all for watching. Rock on.
peace.